Hey everyone, and welcome back to Everyday English Podcast. You know how sometimes when you're speaking English, it's like you hit a wall?
Yeah, today we're going to dive into that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about thinking in English and why that's so important for fluency.
It's interesting, right? We learn a language, and the first thing we do is try to translate everything.
Oh yeah, word for word. I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, like I remember this one time I was in Italy. I was trying to order some food, and I knew what I wanted to say. I just couldn't get the words out because I was stuck translating the menu in my head.
I think we've all been there.
It was awkward.
Yeah, and it's this mental block that really slows you down, right?
It's like you're so focused on getting the translation perfect that you lose that natural flow of conversation.
It's like driving with the parking brake on.
Exactly. Okay, so how do we release that break and start thinking directly in English?
Well, I think the first step is just being aware of it.
Okay, like catching yourself when you're translating.
Okay, so that's step one. But then what? Can we just will ourselves to think in English?
I wish it was that easy. It's more about retraining our brains.
Yeah, like when we were kids, we didn't learn our native language by memorizing rules.
We just heard it all the time.
Yeah, we were immersed in it, right?
Exactly. So we need to kind of create that immersive environment for English as well.
Yeah, surround yourself with as much English as possible. Movies, music, podcasts, even just switching your phone settings to English.
I like that. Even if we don't understand everything at first, just that constant exposure really helps.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's the passive approach, right? But what about actively practicing thinking in English? Are there any exercises we can do?
Have you ever tried talking to yourself in English?
Yeah, sometimes in the shower.
Okay, no one's listening.
That's exactly it. Just narrate your day, your thoughts, everything in English.
So be our own commentator?
And it's kind of funny because you don't have to worry about making mistakes when it's just you. It's a safe space.
Exactly. And I've heard that visualizing the words can actually help as well.
Oh, yeah, try to picture those words in your mind as you're saying them.
Oh, interesting.
It strengthens that connection.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've got immersion, self-talk, writing, visual aids. Anything else? Any other tricks up your sleeve?
Well, this one might sound a little daunting, but trust me, it works. Try practicing speaking in front of a mirror.
Oh yeah, the mirror technique. It's like giving a presentation.
Exactly, but to yourself.
Yeah, so it can help you feel more comfortable speaking out loud.
Right. Okay, so now let's talk about one of the biggest roadblocks people face when trying to think in English.
Okay.
The fear of making mistakes.
That fear, that's a big one. It can be really paralyzing.
It is. And what happens is you overthink everything, right? You worry about grammar, pronunciation, and you just get stuck.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Mistakes are inevitable.
Yeah, they happen to everyone, even native speakers.
So you're saying we should embrace the mess ups?
Exactly. Mistakes are how we learn.
That's true. And I think it's helpful to remember that fluency isn't about being perfect. It's about being able to communicate effectively.
Okay, so don't let the fear of making mistakes hold you back.
It's like learning to ride a bike.
Yeah, you're gonna fall a few times before you get the hang of it.
Exactly. But eventually it becomes second nature.
It does. Okay, so mistakes are our friends.
Yes. But what about those moments when we're in a conversation
Uh-huh.
and we just can't think of the right word?
Ugh, I hate those moments. It's like your mind goes completely blank.
The tip of the tongue moment. It happens.
It's the worst.
But instead of getting flustered, try to describe the word
Okay.
using other words like a game of charades.
Exactly. That's a good idea, and it keeps the conversation going.
That's a good point. And speaking of mindset shifts, I think it's really important to let go of that need for perfection.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think a lot of times perfectionism can really hold us back.
Absolutely. That idea that we have to speak perfectly to be fluent.
But, even native speakers make mistakes.
It's okay to have an accent, to make a few grammar errors. What matters most is that you're getting your message across.
That's so true. So try to be kind to yourself, okay? And focus on progress, not perfection.
It's like dancing. You don't need to know every single step perfectly to enjoy the music and move with the rhythm.
I love that analogy. So let's embrace the imperfections and have fun with the language.
Absolutely. And speaking of fun, how can we make thinking in English more enjoyable?
Because if it feels like a chore, we're less likely to stick with it.
Exactly. One of the best ways to make it enjoyable is to simply find topics and activities that you're genuinely interested in and explore them in English.
So instead of forcing ourselves to read boring textbooks, we should be reading about things that we actually enjoy.
Absolutely. If you love cooking, watch cooking shows in English, read cooking blogs.
Whatever you're passionate about, make it a point to experience it in English.
It's like turning your hobbies into language learning opportunities.
Exactly. And this ties into another important aspect of thinking in English.
Okay.
Active listening.
So it's not just about hearing the words, but really paying attention to how native speakers use the language.
Precisely. It's about focusing on the nuances of pronunciation, the rhythm, the intonation, even the pauses.
It's like when you're listening to a song, you're not just hearing the individual notes, you're paying attention to how they all flow together to create a melody.
I love that analogy. And just like with music, the more you listen actively, the more attuned you become to those subtle nuances of the language.
You start to develop an ear for what sounds natural and fluent.
So, how can we practice active listening? Any tips?
One tip is to choose audio materials that you enjoy.
Okay, like podcasts, audiobooks, or even TED Talks.
Okay, and as you're listening,
True, notice how they connect their thoughts.
don't be afraid to rewind, replay sections you didn't quite catch.
Got it. Or to slow down the playback speed if it's too fast.
It's like hitting the pause button on a movie.
Yeah, so you can really savor a particular scene.
Exactly. Okay, active listening, check. What about those times when we feel overwhelmed by the sheer amount of English we need to learn?
Oh, I know that feeling. It can feel like trying to climb a mountain with no end in sight.
It's true, but remember, you don't have to conquer the whole mountain at once.
Yeah, break down your learning into smaller steps.
Okay, smaller steps. So instead of trying to memorize every word in the dictionary, we should focus on the words and phrases that we need for everyday life.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to start small. Even a few new words or phrases each day can make a big difference.
So it's about consistency.
Absolutely. It's like building a house.
Right, brick by brick, each brick might seem small, but together they create the strong structure.
I love that. Okay, so we've got immersion, self-talk, writing, visual aids, active listening.
Yeah, breaking our learning down into smaller steps.
Right.
Anything else?
Yes. One very simple but often overlooked tip is to simply set reminders
Reminders to do what?
to think in English.
Oh, okay. You can set alarms on your phone, little sticky notes around your house.
So we're basically tricking our brains into thinking in English more often.
Yeah, little nudges throughout the day.
I like that. And another thing to remember is that you're not alone in this journey.
Yeah, there's so many resources available.
That's a good point. There are tons of online communities, language exchange partners, and apps.
Exactly, that can really help. And sometimes just talking to someone else who understands the challenges of learning English can be really motivating.
Yeah, it's like having a cheerleader in your corner.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of great techniques for thinking in English,
We have.
but I'm curious, what are some of the most common challenges people face when trying to make this shift?
One of the biggest challenges is simply forgetting to think in English.
Like we're so used to thinking in our native language, it takes a real conscious effort.
Yeah, it's like our brain wants to default back to what's familiar.
Exactly. So how can we remind ourselves to think in English more often?
Well, like we talked about earlier, those reminders can be really helpful.
Okay, those little nudges.
Another thing you can try is to create visual cues.
Oh, interesting. Like put sticky notes around your house, or maybe even wear a bracelet that says Think in English.
Yeah, whatever works for you.
Okay, I like that. And another challenge is feeling overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah, by the amount of English you need to learn.
That's a big one. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to learn all of this. It can be really intimidating.
But remember, you don't have to learn everything at once. Just take it step by step.
Okay, smaller chunks again.
Smaller chunks. Focus on the vocabulary you need for everyday situations and gradually expand from there.
And I think it's also important to celebrate those small wins along the way.
Absolutely, because it can be easy to get discouraged when you don't see results immediately.
It's true. It's a journey, not a race.
Yeah, don't be afraid to pause, rewind, or even slow down the playback speed if you need to.
It's like hitting the pause button on a movie.
Yeah, so you can really catch every detail.
Exactly. It's not about speed, it's about comprehension.
Another helpful technique is to take notes while you're listening.
Oh, so like jot down new words or phrases?
Exactly. Create your own little vocabulary notebook.
And don't just write down the word. Try to come up with an example sentence using that word in context.
That's a great idea. It's like creating our own personalized phrasebook.
Precisely. And it can be really helpful for remembering new vocabulary.
Okay, so we've got active listening, note-taking. What else can we do to make this whole thinking in English thing a more consistent habit?
One simple but effective technique is to set reminders.
Reminders like little sticky notes all over my house?
That could work, but you can also use technology to your advantage.
Okay.
You set alarms on your phone or computer throughout the day just to remind you to switch your thinking to English.
So it's like giving our brains a little nudge.
Exactly. It's just stay on track.
Okay, I like that. What about those times when we feel like we're just not making progress fast enough?
I think we all experience that at some point.
Yeah, it's easy to get discouraged.
It is, especially when we see other people who seem to be progressing much faster.
But it's important to remember that everyone learns at their own pace.
And that comparison is the thief of joy.
So true.
So focus on your own journey, celebrate your own milestones, and be patient with yourself.
Okay, so patience is key.
Patience is key, and celebrate those small wins, no matter how small.
Exactly. Did you learn a new word today? Fantastic. Did you manage to hold a short conversation in English? Amazing.
Give yourself credit for those accomplishments.
It's like giving ourselves a little pat on the back.
Exactly. It's all about positive reinforcement.
Okay, so focus on the progress, not the perfection.
Exactly. And speaking of perfection, I think it's important to let go of that need to be perfect.
Perfectionism, the ultimate fluency killer.
It's like setting the bar so high that we're afraid to even try.
It is, and it's so important to remember that nobody's perfect. Even native speakers make mistakes.
It's all part of the learning process.
So we should embrace those mistakes.
Embrace them, learn from them.
Okay, and keep moving forward.
Okay, so mistakes are our friends.
But what about those moments when we just can't seem to find the right word in English?
You know, those dreaded tip of the tongue moments.
Those can be so frustrating.
But instead of giving up or resorting back to your native language, try to describe the word using other words that you do know.
So, like playing a mental game of charades?
Exactly. It's a great way to keep the conversation flowing and to challenge yourself to think more creatively.
And it also shows that you're really trying to use the language, even when you're struggling.
It does. It shows that you're engaged and that you're committed to improving.
Okay, so embrace those tip-of-the-tongue moments. Got it.
Yeah. Now, what about accents? Do you think it's important to try to sound like a native speaker?
That's a great question, and honestly, there's no right or wrong answer.
Some people feel more confident when they can speak with a native-like accent, while others are perfectly happy with their own accent.
The most important thing is to be able to communicate effectively and to feel good about the way you sound.
So it's all about finding our own voice and embracing our individuality.
Exactly. And remember, there's no such thing as a perfect accent. Even native speakers have different regional accents and dialects.
The beauty of language is in its diversity.
I love that. So let's celebrate our uniqueness and not be afraid to let our personalities shine through in our English.
Absolutely. And speaking of personalities, one thing that can really help you connect with others in English is to use the language expressively.
So don't just focus on the words themselves, but also on how we use our voice and body language to convey meaning.
Exactly. Use intonation, facial expressions, gestures, all those things that help us communicate more effectively.
It's like adding color and spice to our language.
I love that analogy. And speaking of spice, don't be afraid to add a little humor to your English as well.
So tell jokes, be playful, and just have fun with the language.
Exactly. Laughter is a universal language, and it can help you relax, connect with others, and even learn more effectively.
Okay, so be expressive, be humorous, and most importantly, be ourselves.
Yes, and one more thing I want to mention is the importance of silence.
Silence. Why is that important when we're trying to improve our speaking skills?
Silence can actually be a very powerful tool in communication. It gives you time to think, to process information, and to formulate your thoughts in English.
So instead of feeling pressure to fill every silence with words,
Yeah, we should embrace those pauses and let them work their magic.
exactly, silence can create emphasis, build suspense, and even make you a more effective listener.
It's like a punctuation mark in a conversation.
Okay, so embrace the silence. Got it?
Now, what about those times when we just don't have a lot of time to dedicate to practicing English?
Well, the good news is that you don't need hours and hours of study to make progress.
Even small pockets of time can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah, like those 5 minutes while we're waiting in line at the grocery store.
Or those 10 minutes while we're commuting to work.
Exactly. Use those little snippets of time to review flashcards, listen to a short podcast, or even just think about your day in English.
It's about making the most of every opportunity.
Exactly. And remember, consistency is key.
Okay, so consistency over intensity.
Exactly. Even a little bit of practice each day can make a big difference over time.
So it's like that saying, little drops of water make a mighty ocean.
I love that. And another great way to practice thinking in English is to find a language partner or join a conversation group.
So put ourselves out there and actually use the language in real life situations.
Exactly. And don't worry about making mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. And most people are incredibly understanding and supportive, especially if they know you're learning English.
So it's about finding a safe and supportive environment where we can practice without feeling self-conscious.
Exactly. And remember, the more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
It's like anything else in life.
Yeah, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Okay, so find a language partner, join a conversation group, and just start talking.
Now, what about visualization? I've heard that can be a helpful technique for learning a language.
Visualization can be incredibly powerful. As you're learning new words and phrases,
Yeah?
you try to create vivid mental images in your mind.
Oh, interesting.
For example, if you're learning the word beach, imagine yourself walking along the sandy shore, feeling the warm sun on your skin, hearing the waves crashing against the shore.
So it's like creating a mini movie in our minds.
Exactly. The more senses you can engage, the stronger and longer the connection will be between the word and its meaning.
I like that. So we're not just learning the word,
Yeah, we're experiencing it.
we're experiencing it. Okay, visualization, check.
What about those times when we just feel completely stuck, like our brain is fried and we can't think in English no matter how hard we try?
I think we all have those days. It's important to be kind to yourself and to recognize when you need a break.
Sometimes the best thing you can do is to simply step away from the language for a while and come back to it when you're feeling refreshed.
So give ourselves permission to rest and recharge.
Exactly. And, sometimes just changing up your routine can help.
Okay.
If you've been focusing a lot on reading, try listening to some music in English.
Yeah, or if you've been spending a lot of time studying grammar,
Try watching a movie or TV show.
so mix things up and keep it interesting.
Exactly. And most importantly, don't give up. Learning a language takes time and effort.
Yeah, but the rewards are well worth it.
It's so true.
Keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself.
I love that. Keep believing in ourselves.
So, we've talked a lot about the mental side of thinking in English, but what about the physical side? Does our body language play a role in how we think and speak in English?
Absolutely. Our body language and our thoughts are interconnected.
So, if we stand up straight and make eye contact, it can actually help us feel more confident and speak more fluently.
Exactly. And it's not just about how we present ourselves to others. It's also about how we feel internally.
So, our body language can actually influence our thoughts and emotions.
Precisely. When we adopt a confident posture, our brains release hormones like testosterone and dopamine,
Oh, wow.
which make us feel more powerful and in control.
So, it's like faking it till we make it?
In a way, yes, but it's more than just faking it. It's about creating a positive feedback loop between our body and our mind.
Okay, when we feel confident, we project confidence. And when we project confidence, we feel even more confident.
It's like a virtuous cycle.
Yeah, so stand up straight, make eye